because that would still be an extremely epic game. So introducing our players now down in the bottom left side. Not able to pull it out in that last game, but still managing to make it extremely close and extremely awesome. It is going to be BLAST.Roof. And up in the top right side, showing us outstanding performance in that last game, showing us not only a crazy build, but crazy decision makings and crazy, basically playing Protoss in a whole new way. It is going to be Type.ReaL. But I gotta say, after watching that first game, I am in love with both these players already. I can't wait to see what they have planned here on this next map. And I want to mention really quickly on this map, Sean, almost every single game I watch PvZ, it almost seems like the Zerg goes for massive, massive roach, three-pronged attacks, just because of how the map is laid out.
Oh, yeah.
They can make it very, very, very strong on this map.
But it's interesting the way that Protosses have almost begun to expect that sort of attack. You used to see Protosses wall off at their third base to deal with the later Ling Roach attacks, but it turned out that was too vulnerable. It would get hit right when the fast Ling Roach attacks would come. So you're seeing players keep their cannons positioned more behind the third nexus, keeping their units between the two bases. And we saw MC able to defeat Stefano actually at the Red Bull Battlegrounds using that exact technique. So I'm still interested with all of this if Type.ReaL's even going to go for any sort of Sentry Immortal play, or whether he's just going to go all-out 7-gate econ focused. Almost feels weird to say out loud, but that is the brilliant build we saw last game. And from BLAST.Roof, once again, we see that very early pool. We're at 15 supply for Zerg, and that pool is still about halfway done. So quite early, and that's going to force, yep, the early forge from Real.
And we'll most likely follow this up with the Nexus, followed up again by that cannon, just to help defend that. I mean, the rush distance is quite far away here on this map, and he's probably not going to be making too many Zerglings here because he doesn't want to risk, you know, not being able to, that probe just dancing around like crazy there inside the main base. But yeah, he is going to go for the queen here, and we do see 4 Zerglings on the way. Just curious to see once that next larva comes out, is it going to be Zerglings or drones? I mean, 6 Zerglings is kind of a big commitment, where 4 is more standard for scouting around the map. We saw him doing that in the previous game, scouting everywhere for those pylons and just trying to see exactly what was happening on the map. But yep, there we go. Down goes the hatchery right there. Looking pretty standard. And again, got to be scouting out, so heavily focused on these Zerglings.
I just think that it really goes to show the sort of level that Roof has gotten to. It's just based on really carefully thought out, meticulous, good habits, honestly.
Right.
I will always scout these edges every single game. And even though that sounds like an easy thing to do just thinking about it, when you have 400 of those good habits you have to execute, it's easy for, you know, a few hundred to fall off. But man, Roof is so responsible about doing all of this. He's the sort of person that you would really trust with your child for a week if you had to go on vacation. He would absolutely be fed and be read an educational nighttime bed story and probably know how to factor polynomials by the time you get back.
And yeah, by the time you get back from work, he's also bought you 2 new homes because he is expanding like crazy. Going to, I would assume, continue that creep.
He's a great babysitter, man.
I know.
He only charges $35 an hour. That's amazing.
It's a great investment, and indeed does drop down that creep tumor there. That's something I really like to see, because time and time again we've seen Zerg players struggle versus some sort of, say, Warp Prism play in the main with Force Fields or Void Ray, Phoenix harassment, and their units are just so slow moving back and forth that you aren't able to use those queens in the way that they should be, especially after those buffs they received. I don't really like to say recent buffs because it has been a while now, but you know, having that creep spread connecting these bases once again, and also immediately drops the creep tumor down on the low ground. His creep spread is top notch here, and I hope he continues to do it. But right now we do see Type.ReaL getting out that cybernetics core. Should be working on that warp gate research here relatively soon. But again, he does have the 2 gas in the main, and it all comes down to when's the next gas.
Yeah, those 2 gas geysers are the biggest signifier of an upcoming strategy. And you'll see that the Overlord from BLAST.Roof is positioned just barely over the edge of those 2 geysers. So if he sees one geyser go down, it's generally going to be a Blink Stalker timing push. Occasionally will be some Robo timing pushes. If we see, also if we see one gas, that generally ends up being a Stargate in a lot of circumstances. If we see 2 geysers go down right around now, that's generally going to be some sort of timing push or expand based upon Robo techs. And since we do see the Robo facility, Type.ReaL will very likely be getting a +1 attack upgrade and those 2 down very quickly, and this will immediately signal what the early expand, Batman! Batman!
So right now, in position at the third base, just hacking away at these lings all day long. Actually having quite a bit of fun, I would say. He may eventually get taken out here, and he does. The queen going to be spawning there just in time to inject that larva there right when that base is finishing up. So it does look like, you know, we are going to be having a macro play here. Sean, you mentioned the cannons more close to the Nexus. You can see he is not walling off. This choke point is instead trying to wall off right here where he can swing those units in and out. Just like Sean was talking about, down goes the pylon. He can easily drop cannons right here to help defend that from circling counterattacks if he decides to. We do have the Rotorn on the way. Delayed circling speed here. That's because he was getting his expansion so early. It is 48 drones here to 39. But it's an interesting spot for Zerg to be in because it's got to be 3-base versus 3-base. There are a lot of timings he can try and punish to basically not allow that Protoss player to go unchecked. But if it does go unchecked, then all of a sudden he's on the back foot because he's tied in expansions.
Yeah, I actually think that Roof is going to be in a very uncomfortable position right now. We see that there is the layer just now starting, and already we're seeing Real getting that nice contain on those buildings, setting up that mini wall there. But note it's not a forward wall. It still allows him to advance forward, get nice force fields, and use an Immortal Sentry army to be dealing the bulk of the damage. This is a very unusual expand timing from Type.ReaL, and one that will generally be catching Roof off guard. Roof, though, might very well say, you know what, if you are going to be expanding that early, I'm going to be going Ling Muta, and there's no way you can attack me. And boom, there's the 4th base in the top left. We see Zergling speed upgraded and 15 drones in production.
Moving out with a couple of roaches here to begin putting on that pressure. It is only 7 roaches on the field, 15 lings. May just try and basically force an overreaction here. But at this point, I mean, the Protoss player has the economy to be able to warp in units. These aren't going to be dead units. They aren't going to be units that are a basically resource sink that he is not going to want to use. So right now, he's going to be in pretty good shape here. This poor Stalker, though, his chances of survival not looking very good. Down he does go. And that 4th base going to be established here relatively soon. What's the worker count looking like? 65 to 57. You might expect to see more drones out of Roof, but you can see he is hovering a lot of resources. What is he going to be for? We do see the infestation pit kind of chilling out right now. It's almost completed. Double hatchery now on the way. There is, where is that extra hatchery at? It is a macro hatchery inside of the main base there. And just needs to make sure to stay on top of his inject larvas because he has a lot of money to spend. Needs to make sure to spend it by the time his opponent's army gets here.
Infestation pit, I mean, is he actually going to go for a fast hive? That would be so kick-ass. I would love that. I would love him, and I would love everyone who has ever been named Roof.
And there
Both
it is, Sean.
players.
You
Boom!
have a lot of love letters to write this Valentine's Day because the Hive Tech is on the way before the 11-minute mark. That is one of the earliest Hive Techs I think I've ever seen. He does have the economy to be able to power that. But, you know, Sean, is it up to Type.ReaL to punish this? Or should he himself sit back and just get crazy upgrades?
Well, it's difficult for Type.ReaL to do anything. Look at the production tab right now. Twilight Council finishing up. Robo Bay number 2, or Robo Bay number 1. Robotics Facility number 2 coming up. Real can't really do anything aggressive. He doesn't have Blink, Colossi, a lot of units. How many gateways is he at? He should be at 6 or maybe even 7. I mean, wow, there's 3 there in the main, 1 at the front, and 2 in the back. Yeah, he has 6 total. That's just not a lot of production for a Protoss. I think it is certainly wise for him to be taking this expand to try to win in the economy war, but we are clearly seeing that Zerg is rapidly advancing to the mega army with the Broodlord, Infestor, Mass Spine, Mass Expand. 8 Geysers are going to be up and operational, and Type.ReaL is going to have to face the full brunt of an pretty much unabated Broodlord Infestor army.
11 plus drones on the way at a time, finally pushing towards that 80 to 90 drone mark that you would expect to see. A lot of those drones will be dumped into those spine crawlers like you mentioned, but this is something that is so worth it. Almost every single Zerg player has started to realize, hey, spine crawlers are so good at delaying pushes. It frees up supply, it does lots of damage, and it makes it so there's no such thing as counterattacks. He has spine crawlers at every single base. There's actually no avenue of attack other than Warp Prisms where he is not going to run into a spine crawler before he runs into an expansion. And you mentioned those Broodlords going unimpeded. That just helps with that. He can go straight to Mass Corruptor, transition those into the Broodlords, be in great shape. He's not expanding again, is he? That would be awesome. Ridiculous.
But I do like that comment you make about, well, the only thing you can really do damage with is the Warp Prism, and indeed he's going to be able to do a lot of damage with the Warp Prism, despite this very fast tech seeming to be the best way you could possibly go Broodlord Infester. He doesn't have the speed roaches, he doesn't have a lot of speed lings on the map, so if there is some sort of Warp Prism drop, it's going to be super difficult for the Zerg army to get there. There's the Warp Prism coming down right now, and this very small but technical mix from Type.ReaL will likely be enough to put the sufficient pressure on the Zerg player. We do see the Greater Spire. It just needs a few more seconds to go, and there it is. 6 Broodlords in production by the 4th base. The big push coming up, but some phenomenal force fields.
That is going to allow him to retreat. Now that the no rush 15 minutes rule has been lifted, the battle should commence here relatively soon. We do have a lot of minerals, but not a lot of gas for our Zerg player, unsurprisingly though, because that is 7 Broodlords at the 15-minute mark. This expansion may have to be canceled here. That expansion is not that valuable compared to everything else he has going for him. The fleet Bacon got to be wrapping up. Everybody loves Bacon. That drone somehow surviving. Oh my god. What a stressful job he's been given. But we do have the +2 attack on the way for ground units, while our Protoss is just finishing up +2 as well. War Prism speed is on the way. This is such a brilliant play at this stage of the game where you just need to try and lower that drone count as much as you can. +3 melee now, following it up immediately. Blink is now almost done. Another War Prism? Am I seeing this right? Yes, there is a second War Prism on the way, but the first War Prism got to be going inside the main base. There are spine crawlers here, but they are too little too late. Is there anything that can actually deny these cells from doing massive damage here? He is going to be moving in and focusing down those spine crawlers, forcing to cancel on some of them. But where's the army to defend? Sean, you mentioned the lack of roaches and Zerglings, and we're seeing that right now.
It's still up at 187 food. He's going to have a very hard time dealing with this attack. Zealots, such an incredible late-game force when they're able to pull small numbers of Zerg units into the wrong locations. Now with those 9 spine crawlers finishing up, it looks like perhaps BLAST.Roof is going to have the mixture that he needs. He has to be careful not to lose those units, and there we see a very nice fungal, but with that high ground advantage, we see the Broodlords doing some incredible amounts of damage. Queen gets roasted. We see a couple of charged Zerg units on the ground. With that Warp Prism finally starting to wrap up its effectiveness, and this army on the retreat, it looks like our Zerg player BLAST.Roof will be able to get another base on the map, but a big warp in the main.
There it goes right now, going to be attempting to harass these spine crawlers. Again, this shows the effectiveness of the spines, though, can continue to transfuse those. It looks like they will get taken out, but not in time to do damage to the economy. The roach is going to be coming up here. One thing I want to mention, though, is the creep spread from Roof has been severely lackluster as he has been focusing on these battles. That means that the Protoss can easily have that map control, have that map vision that is so uncommon in late-game PvZ. We do see the spine crawlers, though, the numbers getting overwhelming inside the main base. I love this. Of Roof, he's got to be able to deny any sort of the War Prism harass, but how many War Prisms do you have, son?
He has 4 War Prisms!
That is the most I've ever seen in any game ever, including mono battles where they spawn with only War Prism.
And it looks like we see 3 Stargates going down in addition to the already existing Stargate. He is going to be making a transition into carriers. That is the final mixture of the Protoss Death Army. The carrier always breaks the stalemate, swings the advantage to the Protoss side of things. And with all those Warp Prisms in the map, it is going to be so difficult for the Zerg to do anything but defend, defend, defend while Protoss gets those extra bases up, gets those extra carriers up. And the one set of expansions that Protoss needs to lock down is the North and the South, and he is doing it with these types of counterattack warpins.
Now he does not have Zealot legs. Just now starting it would have much more success with these Zealots. However, he can afford to throw some units away here. He has a lot of money. Who's the lucky 4 Zealots who get to go home in the War Prism? It's not these guys. As this guy's like, no, come back. As he only has 4 HP, trying to chase it down. That awkward moment, Sean. That awkward moment. Now we do have the Broodlords here chilling out at the, I guess, 5th base here as the War Prism guy continue to harass, although those lucky Zealots maybe not that lucky if they are told to unload here. And they do. Not going to do too much harassment here because of the amount of defense.
And it looks like up in the main base we see just an Overseer. Everything needs to stay calm. He's just checking, doing some scouting. The War Prism did indeed get taken out. The Zealots will not be able to do maximum damage. They'll just get taken out. But up at the top left base, yet another Warp Prism harass attempt by Type.ReaL. But Roof is being very, very smart with this play. I mean, sure, he's getting storm dropped a little bit there, but he's realizing, as many Zerg players have in the last few months, what you need to spend your resources or the resources you really need are gas for the Infestors and the Broodlords. What do you do with the minerals? Mass defensive structure. But the problem is, This is all helping that Protoss player get time for the carriers. Mike, 4 carriers in production right now. Zealot leg speed, 2-2 upgrades on the air units, and more Warp Prisms swinging in for damage.
I don't usually say this in the game, Sean, but we are now down to 2 Warp Prisms as he has lost 2 of those, and it is set into a position to begin warping. And he could kill, I guess, the spawning pool here. He has managed to circumvent these defenses, but the Queens are ready, steady to go ahead and hold that off. The other Warp Prism trying to harass that 4th base right now, but the proxy pilot's getting set up, and this base is just awkwardly placed. That's a great place for Broodlords to deny that. However, maybe it's too far out of the way for that to actually happen. We do see a big push now up in the northern side. Can he actually break that, though? I mean, this is why you see players go for Mass Spinecrawler, because how are you supposed to break it? It's so tough. Using carriers is a great option. Usually you don't see that in a game, but we are definitely going to see it in this one, Sean, as all 4 carriers about to spawn. Mothership is now here. She does have enough energy for double Vortex in just a moment, so it's going to come down to, I think, the Vortex and also preventing those corruptors.
Oh, the Spore Crawler in the main is going to be able to shoot right up the butt of that Warp Prism, which will almost certainly make it die unless he does the wraparound Warp Prism warp in. Nope, doesn't work. Now, one thing that I think is quite brilliant that we're seeing out of Type.ReaL is the fact that he is taking the bottom expansion before the bottom right expansion. The bottom right expansion is almost guaranteed for the Protoss player. It's on his half of the map, hard for Zerg to take no matter what. But that bottom one, well, both players could really take that one. So Real wants to mine that one out first.
Oh my god, Sean. He's trying to kill this Zergling that's burrowed. He just killed 5 of his own stalkers trying to do splash damage. There he goes. Finally, he gets it. But at the same time, the carriers are completely out of position.
Neural
Everyone is neural parasited there. They are all going to fall. Here we go. The biggest blunder I've seen in a while here as he lost the carriers. He killed off a lot of his own stalkers. Goodbye, carriers. They're going to do a little bit of damage, but it is going to be minor damage at that. And Sean, he has such good air upgrades. He was relying on his carriers to carry him through the late game. He does have a lot of money to recover, but I don't know if he has time.
What a brutal misjudgment of timing by Type.ReaL, trying to get a little cute in the bottom right, killing off his stalkers to remove a burrowed Zerglings. He needed to free the food for Archon and carriers anyways, but then losing all 4 carriers to some amazing neural parasites, and we see the army of BLAST.Roof being one of the scariest that you've seen. But there's the recall into the main base. The recall, not as big as you'd imagine, and suddenly this is a small amount of Protoss units that are just asking to be eaten alive.
The Mothership as well needs to get off of Vortex. It's not going to happen, though. The Infestors on the ramp, but there are so many. Down goes the Mothership, which means the Colossus are completely vulnerable here as they have been spotted. Can the Archons actually do what they need to here? I don't know if they can. They're trapped in the corner. The Broodlords have now arrived. The Infestors have also arrived.
Oh, the brutality. A series of stunning misjudgments by Type.ReaL, losing his carriers, losing a huge chunk of units in his main, but still relying on the immobility of this force. He's taken out the Hive. He may very well take out the pool, and up at the top side, he is now mounting for yet another counterattack.
Now, right now, you have to remember that killing off that Hive Tech isn't that bad. We do have a lot of Zealots up here. Just because he has so much defense, it's not like losing that Hive Tech is going to cost him the game quite yet. Moving, I don't know how many Spinecrawlers forward towards whatever number base this is for Type.ReaL. Out come the
Oh my god, a Spinecrawler push!
Spinecrawlers. We're going to see Spinecrawlers versus cannons. There are DTs here, but they immediately get detected by those Overseers, and all of a sudden this army is going to be able to, I think, hold. But at the same time, it looks like the Zealots are going to be attacking the top left side. Is this enough? I just don't know. They are at 3 attack. They would love to have the 3 armor as well. But the Zerg army holding steady here outside of this base.
Oh, and with all the Infestors stepping into the fray, the infested Terrans, all the Spinecrawlers, it will get eliminated. At the south side, we see the expansion has not really begun mining yet, and Type.ReaL, who seem to have a good control of the map, is falling apart. Does have those DTs in the center of the map. The Infestors trying to defend as best they can. The Infestor count is massive from the Zerg at 19, with 5 more in production. Evolution Chambers fall at the front of the base. There are attacks going on at every angle in the entire map, and with the Broodlord army count continuing to rise, it's looking quite grim for Type.ReaL.
All those supplies, he is at 160. It's just not enough to get out the carriers he needs. He needs to deal with these Infestors somehow, because then he can deal with the Broodlords using an Archon toilet. But I don't think he's going to have enough time. He does have the money to begin getting remaxed out here. He could do a big warp-in as well to take out the main base. The main base, though, not all that important at this stage of the game. The Spinecrawler count has been lowered, but all of a sudden just immediately swells back up. The carrier count is getting pretty darn high here, though. He is at 8 carriers, able to push back those Spinecrawlers. The Spine Crawlers immediately say, you ain't got nothing, bro. I'm going to go ahead and re-burrow. But at this point in the game, he has his mothership back out. Can he get maxed out, and can he get the perfect Archon toilet? It's got to be tough.
Well, if you go back to that 4th base, you see that there is a Spire done, so he can begin building Corruptors. He has 14 on the map right now. The top left expansion is up. Now a lot of drones mining. Zerg has a slight edge in that he has more supply left available to be able to build those drones, and it looks like we're seeing BLAST.Roof do an interesting play trying to pick off some interceptors. Going to throw down a couple of beach balls, get some of that skirting vision. If he can get the one neural parasite, he will now control a mothership. A lot of feedbacks, but when there's over 20 infestors on the map, does it really matter all that much? We see that one single vortex could change the course of the game, and there it is. But a neural parasite! He now controls the mothership.
Oh no, he killed his own mothership there because it was the Zerg unit. He says, whatever.
Oh, he can throw in a lot of infested Terrans.
The Lords, though, are in position.
He needs to throw the infested Terrans into the mix. Why is he throwing in all those units? And there we see the Archons doing some big damage, but with all the Fungals and the Broodlords there, they annihilate that Archon force with ease. There are carriers getting taken down by the handful, and BLAST.Roof in an absolutely insane game, managing to break through at his main and natural warp in units are doing their toll. We see counterattacks coming up from Type.ReaL, but the Broodlord Infestor army is a little bit too strong. But will there be any more bases for BLAST.Roof to defend?
Oh, remember the Protoss has expanded down to the bottom right side, so if he can begin replacing that valuable tech, maybe he can hang on. You can see the main base, now the natural, has been basically completely destroyed. We also have the 5th base in the center getting taken out. A lot of drones have now fallen, but it is 116 supply to 170. Really, it's going to come down to these Broodlords. How do you deal with that many Broodlords once you have no tech whatsoever? He does have the Dark Shrine for more Archons, but the top left base still remains, and the Hive tech still stands. Even more Spine Crawlers on the way. I don't know if fully upgraded Zealot Stalker is enough to take down that many, but he is going to do his best here. The main problem right now, Sean, is just dealing with these Broodlords. Even though they're slow, even though they're out of position, what can he actually do?
16 infestors in production. We see that the new main base of the Zerg is now under fire from that Zealot Stalker mixture. There is some fungal growths going down, but where are those huge numbers of infestors there to defend? It looks like they're starting to scuttle all over the map, even becoming an army in their own right. And now Type.ReaL blinking around, trying to pick off those infestors that he can see. His new main, the top left, still able to stay alive. The Broodlord Infestor army has hollowed out the main base of Type.ReaL. Mike Don Lamond, this game,
Sean.
Mike.
And it does look like the expansions down in the bottom right side, going to be under fire. This one's completely mined out. This Nexus actually does nothing right now. It's going to be the bases even further in the south that he's going to want to keep. Stalkers running inside the main base. He's trying to force a base race, but how do you do that versus so many Spine Crawlers? Trying to kind of reminds me of Magic walls that somehow have attack. They are so infuriating to try and kill off, and that's exactly what he's going up against here. These infestors have so much energy. Right now he can kill off the Protoss with basically just Fungals and infested Terrans. These probes will surely fall to some pretty ridiculous Fungals here, but the Stalker's still trying to push around. They just cannot kill off these bases because of the Spine Crawler count.
Now it looks like BLAST.Roof finally starting to feel more and more like the game will end in his favor this time. I mean, Type.ReaL is demonstrating how Protosses are giving up a little too easily, hanging in there, counterattacking, continuing to blink and harass, is giving BLAST.Roof an incredible amount of trouble. We see a single High Templar there, able to eliminate one infestor, but these spines that are arbitrarily placed mid-map also managing to do a good amount of damage to this mobile Stalker Dark Templar force. The bottom right expansion is going to fall. Type.ReaL still rushing away, chrono boosting those gateways. It's important to keep your chrono boost energy low, even at the 32-minute mark, Mike.
And when he only has 4 gateways, there's not a whole lot else he can do. I think he's beginning to realize that I'm down 100 supply. I can't even kill his Spine Crawlers, let alone his 17 Broodlords. So this is indeed going to be it for him, but what a crazy series this has been so far. Type.ReaL not able to hang on in the late game. I can't imagine him coming out ahead, but he is sure as hell going to try. Blinking for
and a good game!
Yet another outstanding game.